perfect timing. We're announcing our price increases tonight. So I wanted to get as far away as possible. It's actually a good value, trust me. That's kind of our theme here, trust the process. You'll hear a little bit of that through this presentation. And I also want to give a shout out to Jillian and Matt, two regulars here at the gathering that convinced myself and the rest of our team to show up and participate. And this has been a really enlightening couple days. We had, we're engulfed in this world of sport. And I truly appreciate what I get to do every day. But I also appreciate what you guys do. It is that don't work in sport directly. And it's hard. It's a hard business out there. But I think if we have a little bit of fun and we smile and we do this together, we can all be a little bit better. So we're going to have a little bit of fun for the next half an hour. Shout out if you like. No Toronto Raptors jokes, please. But outside of the Raptors, everything is fair game. Okay, on the serious note, I was told to tell something about myself. And it's actually not serious. I'm one of 7 kids, 6 boys, 1 girl. I'm the youngest, a little bit of a mess here. And they said, tell something about yourself and your whether it's your childhood or what you experienced growing up that brought you to where you are today. And so it actually gave me a good opportunity to reflect on my upbringing of like, how did I end up here? And so there's 3 things that came clear. Number 1, I was born onto a team. So there's a whole lot of us. Number 2, there's a clear love for uniforms. And mind you, I'm 1 year old, not even 1 year old in that picture, and I wore that same bathing suit on each size growing up for the next 10 years. My mother made those bathing suits. True story. And the third one is, no one's bigger than the brand, right? So we use that mantra at the 76ers. We have 2 transformational stars on our team. One's 25 and one's 23. And we have icons and legends that have played for this franchise. But at the end of the day, we all are a steward of this franchise. It's our opportunity and our obligation to grow this brand and make it great. And so that's where we go by. So I would like you guys to do a little exercise with me. And the exercise is close your eyes for 15 seconds. I'm just going to ask for 15 seconds. And think about your greatest and most fond sports memory of your life. So I try to remind myself of this constantly. And I've been doing it for over 25 years in this business. And it always comes back to my memory is, which I'm guessing 9 out of 10 of your memories are too, of my childhood, right? A special memory I had with a parent, with a sibling, with a family member, or even a friend. And you remember the details of that sporting memory, and whether it's hockey or basketball or baseball or anything in between. It's emotional, it's nostalgic, and it's something that we have as a gift, and we can do it at our home games 41 times a year, not to mention all the other days where we can make an impact. So we constantly try to focus on that kid, whether it was ourselves or somebody else, even our own kids now, of what they were like when they were 10, 12, 14 years old. And how can you actually make that memory? It's not that we don't cater to all ages. We do. Our fan base is quite diverse, and it covers a diverse city that has 6.5 million people, and we have all races, all religions, all ages of people that come to our games. So we try to make it special for everybody. Sounds like a big task, but it's easier than you think. Okay, so 6 years ago, a group of us came in to Philadelphia because this team was purchased by a new group, and we had an opportunity to look around and see what we could do, what we had right in our hands, and what we could do with it. And so the first thing we did is we started convincing people that were super talented to come in and join the fight with us. And the very first day, these things came true in my experience. This is true. First day, we were the lowest attendance in the entire NBA. We had 3,200 season ticket holders. Some of our tickets were being sold for $1 in the secondary market. So you're like, great decision taking this job, right? The brand was bland and boring. The uniforms were terrible, the court was boring, the game entertainment was very average. And then we go on into the office, and I recognized we had a Coke machine in there, but we happened to have Pepsi as our major sponsor. And you just can't believe this stuff that you keep finding. So I started writing this list of all this disaster, right? And then we finally just threw the list away and said, you know what? Let's just fix things as they go. We'll clean everything up, and we'll start taking it in chunks. The next thing was we had a bookstore, if you will, or a school store. It was a closet, and it had a bunch of crackers and candy bars and chips in it. But you couldn't get to the closet because they didn't trust anybody until you found the guy that had the key. And then there was a lockbox in there of actually purchasing the items. So I remember staying late one night, and I was just had a headache. I hadn't eaten anything, and I was looking for crackers. And they're like, you can't get the crackers. Larry left at 4 o'clock, and he's got the key. So I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. We're going to change all that. And the next portion goes on the basketball side. We were in a training facility that was, without a doubt, the worst in the league. And we had 15 guys in our training camp roster, but we actually only had 12 lockers. This was only 6 years ago. 12 lockers. So 3 guys were actually out there in the parking lot tying their shoes, getting ready to go out for practice. True story. So great, great opportunity, right? This wasn't a bad thing. This was a good thing. So what did we do? We watched the video of the commercial that was airing.
When America's youth get together, amazing things can happen.
This is not a Saturday Night Live skit. I wish it were.
The Philadelphia 76ers, passionate, intense, proud.
Pretty rough beginnings. Okay, now day 2. This is where the real fun began. We started to think about, okay, we know what we are right now, but what do we want to be? And that's where it really got fun, because we had this brand that we knew could be revitalized. Winning was going to be a project too, because we were going to actually rebuild by depleting our entire roster and start over. So for those first 3 years, we were the worst team record-wise in the entire world of sports. So, but we knew we had a plan. And the plan was, let's start following things on the brand side. Let's actually change the business, fix the brand while the team was progressing. And in 3 years' time, we're going to actually do something special. But in those 3 years' time, can we grow the business? And that was the challenge. So we started identifying 3 different things right here. We wanted to own a color. That was important to us. We were red, white, and blue. Baseball team in the same market had already taken over red, so it kind of deferred us as the last team out of the 4 major sports teams in the market. So we took blue. Just like Manchester United took red and ran with it. So we took blue. The next thing was, if you ever get a chance to go to the Masters, do it. It is the most, even if you don't like golf, it is the most spectacular environment I've ever been to. Every blade of grass seems to be in place. It's truly a beautiful place, and it's so thoughtful in everything they do. So we wanted to be thoughtful in anything that we can control, and the things that we couldn't control, we were going to work on changing that as well. And the third thing was consistency. You know, Michigan, our chief marketing officer went to Michigan, and so she was always talking about Michigan, Michigan, Michigan. And we started looking in deeper to some of these college brands out there, and some were really good and consistent. Well, Michigan, you knew exactly what the simplicity of that M was, and it was universal. So we liked that idea. Let's make this kind of our guiding light as we move forward. So 3 things we focused on: history, quality, and authenticity. These were really, really important, not only to what we were as a group and what we are, but also to our city that we were in. Because we had to start local. And the big idea was one day we're going to be a global brand. But right now we have to handle what's right in front of us, and that was local. So the first thing was history. How do we bring the history back to life when we didn't have the marquee players right from the beginning? So we started talking about the past, getting nostalgic once again. We commissioned a local artist. Everything had to be authentic and local. So we commissioned a local artist to create these sculptures of our legendary players, from Dr. J, Julius Erving, to Allen Iverson, to Wilt Chamberlain, to Charles Barkley. They all played for the 76ers and had unbelievable careers. They were forgotten, so we brought them back to life, so to speak, and we brought them back into the fold. We also honored them. So we couldn't talk about our current players so much, so we talked about the past players. And it would be amazing how people would say, oh yeah, I've always been a 76ers fan, when reality is they had forgotten to us for an entire generation. So this was an opportunity, again, to have people bring back something that was fond. And then it was our story. Okay, these uniforms. You can't imagine a more bland uniform, can you? Really, really rough. So that was an easy fix. But we didn't want to act like this was our team, that these new people were coming in, and we were just doing it because we were marketers and brand experts, so to speak, and we wanted to have our own fingerprints on it. So we said, you know what? We're going to go back and we're going to honor our past again, while the new players are going to be wearing a different uniform. So what did we do? Simple. We just took all the pieces from the past. We went to the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s and combined them all together to give a new feel that was an old comfort zone, okay? And the next thing was quality. So in quality, it was really interesting because you think about quality, you think that, you know, I was thinking about Lululemon. I was listening earlier this morning. And I'm like, it's brilliant. You know, they just created something that was maybe tied into a lifestyle of fitness all the way to a lifestyle of brand that crossed over everybody and became aspirational. So it was something that was practical that became aspirational. So how could we actually raise this $1 ticket on the secondary market to something that people would value, that they would want to go to, as opposed to, I'm stuck with this ticket to a 76ers game. So the first thing, again, after the uniform, was the logo. This is what we kind of started with. And the thought was, again, simplicity. Whether it's Lululemon, I just saw the GoDaddy presentation. What did they do? They got rid of the muck. They cleaned it up and made it simple. Made it easy for people to embrace. So we evolved, and we took step by step. There was a lot of rules and regulations that we had to deal with the league. And then we moved on. And again, got simpler and simpler and simpler. And this was over that first 3 years, all the way down to where we are right now. Very clean, very simple. Everyone understands what it is in the sports world. The next thing was we do a lot of different things in the community, and the community was going to be a critical component to us. Not only were we going to be transparent, but we were going to be out there. We were going to be active in the community. We were going to be true to the community. But even our look and feel of the community programs that we currently had to be changed. They were all over the map. It was a big, hot mess. So what did we do? We started a mission, and we ended up 5 years ago creating a foundation where we raise now over $1.5 million one night a year. And the sky's the limit of what we can do on that. We focused also on that same kid where we all were when we were 9 to 14 years old. That was the target area, except it was going to be for underserved youth, not only in Philadelphia, but the surrounding areas. So we cleaned it up and went at it. And this helped our charge so much easier by people identifying and having that love affair back with the simplicity even of our logo. And it gave them trust. The next thing was storytelling. This is my favorite part. So the storytelling, we used to have just horrible presentations and interactions with our fan base. And so the thought was like, what are we doing here? We only get one time, right? We've heard that before, where you can make that impression when you're face-to-face with somebody, whether you're asking for a corporate sponsorship or you're a season ticket, you're trying to sell somebody season ticket or anything in between. What could we actually do to make it compelling where they wanted to be a part of our tribe, right? And the tribe was theirs. It was the cities. So we started telling stories. We rehearsed all of our storytelling. We had key components that were always consistent in that storytelling of, hey, you know what? We're not going to be very good on the court, but we're going to have a great time. It's going to be very entertaining. You're going to feel good about coming to our games. And you're also going to be a part of something really special one day. And we think that day is not going to take very long. So what did we do? Well, we built a training facility on the other side of the river of our city. And there was rubble. There was nothing out there. So we started pitching people. We would rent a yacht. And we'd pitch people the vision and the imagination. And another thing we did is we decided to rent a helicopter. Took people on a helicopter, pitched them on a helicopter. We just thought of anything that could be extraordinary, that wasn't directly involved with our product, but it was an aid to help us sell, right, of the vision. So I guarantee you everyone that went on that yacht came back and said, you're not going to believe what we just went through. Yes, we were asked for $1 million, but we were asked for $1 million on a yacht. For what? For a basketball team that's not very good. Okay. But they have a vision. They have a plan. And that plan became something where we got lucky too. Because all of a sudden we were talking analytics and we were talking about this unconventional plan. And what happened was these teenagers and 20-somethings and millennials all started saying, hey, this team's kind of cool, like what they're doing. They're the anti-team out there. I'm actually interested in going on there. And so they started this mantra that all happened from a funny incident with one of our players after a game where we lost by a substantial amount of points. And someone asked him, like, hey, what's going on? Like, how are you even showing up for a game? You guys lose every night. He's like, hey, hold on a second. Trust the process. And trust the process became this mantra for this younger fan base. And what did we do about it? This was the magic, I think, that really happened. We didn't do anything about it. We let the fans have that mantra as their own. So social media started becoming bigger, and everything else started blowing up, where we had fan groups and everything else, and we had nothing to do with it. It was the fans that did it. It was truly organic, and we stayed out of their way. We supported them from afar, but we stayed out of their way. Because if we started talking about it, then it would be a little bit disingenuous, right? So that was something that we got very, very fortunate with. The next thing we did was we hired a lot of different looking people. Most of the people looked like me in the beginning. And then we decided, you know what? What's our fan base look like? Well, we're pretty equal with men and women, kids. We had all races come into our games. We had different economic backgrounds. So we started hiring people and really focus on diversity. And this became something that was really, really interesting and fun to have. Because we now looked different too, but we also started teaching each other of what was going on out in the world. Our own little neighborhoods, great, we got that. But do we know all the other neighborhoods in the town? And that's what this gave us, that opportunity to do so. And it was very authentic. The next thing was culture. When we started losing, we started adding on more and more staff. So it's funny, GoDaddy said 9,000 employees. We started with 126. We now have the robust number of 281. So it's a very, very small business on personnel side, right? And in that personnel, we though started doubling down on our ticket sales representatives. So they were coming right out of college, and we started making this kind of really fun culture. And I'm telling you right now, we won 10 games and lost 74? 72? Yeah, it's all a blur. That was preseason too, 74, 72. And in at that time, it was actually really fun. Our work was fun. We had great energy because no one was expecting otherwise. We knew we had this goal and it was going to take a couple years. So we had a lot of fun with it. And we got loose and we got loud. And it was really rambunctious, and it was a joy to bring people in because I couldn't believe the energy that was going on. So, by the way, as a result of that, with all these millennials, we built a gym in our new training complex for them. We started giving free food, so no more crackers in the store, right? Free food was genius. Cost us about $35,000 a year. Best $35,000 spent. And we also allowed all these millennials to volunteer and get out in the community because that was critically important to them. So every single person in the organization to this day volunteers 76 hours a year. And so when doing that 76 hours, we do over 11,000 community service hours every single year. And we started making a difference. And we started making ourselves seen in the community in all aspects. And that actually was good for the soul internally, and it was very authentic externally. And the last thing on authenticity, as you can see with the Liberty Bell here, was we wanted to be true to Philadelphia in every single way. So Philadelphia may have some harsh stereotypes with very vocal fans in other sports. But our games are pretty clean, and people are happy, and people are having fun, and it's a safe environment. It's really a good place. But there's also other great things about Philadelphia. One of them is a symbol of America with the Liberty Bell, and we decided to bring it back to life in all things that we did. And one thing that ended up being part of this game presentation, so it had nothing to do whether we're winning or losing, but some of the other teams were winning in the marketplace. So we started inviting the other teams and the other influencers all back to our games. And they became the stars. So we had these great fans that were now becoming stars themselves. So we started this with the Liberty Bell. You can see that a few of these figures are pretty recognizable. And from Kevin Hart to M. Night Shyamalan to Allen Iverson, they're all Philadelphia 76ers fans. And we started this tradition, starting every game, you rang the bell 3 times. But we made it a mystery. So when the Philadelphia Eagles started winning, and they ended up winning a Super Bowl, we said, hey, let's just bring them in. Let's join the party. Everyone in Philadelphia was very true to their sports teams. So they were more than eager to clap for them and cheer for them. And it became a thing. And all of a sudden, we became a playoff team. And that fun really took off. And so the traditions that we started when we were low started building up to something that was larger than life, where ESPN is calling us up, who's ringing the bell tonight? And is the feature story every single time during playoff games, of our home playoff games. On down to now, our home playoffs, we have sold out 120, tonight will be 121 straight sellouts. We have the largest season ticket base in the entire NBA. We have 16,000 people that are at a waiting list to be on our team, to be a season ticket holder. And not only that, the valuation when I started 6 years ago was under $300 million. It's now over $2 billion. So it's been an unbelievable ride. Not easy, but it's been unbelievable. It wouldn't change a thing, except for maybe one thing. I have a now 15-year-old, my youngest, and every year for 6 years, he started asking, well, really, it was 6 years ago starting, would ask me before the season starts, "We're going to make the playoffs this year?" And I'm like, "No." "We're going to make the playoffs this year?" Not a chance. Third time, he knows what's coming. And then the fourth year, I'm like, "We're going to make the playoffs this year." So now we have 2 years in a row with the playoffs. This year, we're a title contender. We're still very young, but we have some unbelievable talent, and we'll see what happens. Maybe Toronto will get cold this year. Kawhi Leonard, we were so happy to see him go to LA. Somehow, everybody else got better on the team, though. I don't know how that works. Oh, well. The next thing was, this is a political cartoon that was done nearly 250 years ago. And this was actually penned by Benjamin Franklin. And we saw this, and we thought, what a perfect metaphor for our team. And this was a whole thing about the 13 original colonies, how they all acted as separate countries. And then once they came together as one United States, they became very powerful. And that was the concept of the separated snake coming back together. So we adopted that. We have this kind of random name, the 76ers, and we want to become a global entity, and people have no idea what it stands for, and that's okay. So we could have a little bit of fun with this too. So we decided 3 years, the first year when we started this thing, we knew we weren't going to be in the playoffs for the next 3 years. So we decided to work on the campaign from the beginning for a 3-year window and keep it secret. And so that's what we did, and we unveiled it for the first time when we made the playoffs. And this became a movement again. And so we plastered stickers all over the city. We got people to join in. It was very, very organic, but also planned, right? It was organic because the fans took it as their own, and we wanted to give it to them as their own. But it was planned years in advance, which was quite tricky. And it became something really special. So that's something that we do every year, that we're excited again to launch a new version of it without changing too much this playoff season. And the next thing was, anyone know what this is? Picture? Rocky Steps, right. It's the Philadelphia Art Museum. It's actually, Philadelphia is a great city of culture. We have unbelievable cuisine there. The medical field and the education is one of the best cities for those two areas in the United States. And we also have this great art world that's right in front of us. So, and yes, Rocky kind of makes it mainstream for everybody. So the Rocky Steps, and so we decided to bring that a little bit into life as well. And we tied in where we started focus on other communities out there that went beyond sports. So we crossed over with sports, basketball, art. We had an art show this past year. There's a very famous private art collection called the Barnes Foundation, and we'll be actually having our art show there next year. So what did it do? It gave us noise out in the marketplace for something other than basketball. It also made our basketball players look human. It engaged them with the fan base, and maybe you weren't just talking about statistics or wins and losses, but an opportunity for them to express themselves in a different format. So that was pretty fun. And the next thing we did, this was actually a year ago, and we collaborated with Nike as well as a local retailer, and we built out 13 pairs of these shoes. And 13 is kind of the magic number for us. There were 13 original colonies in the United States that really made up that snake. So 13 is our magic number. We gave these out to everybody that you saw ringing the bell and so forth. So now all of a sudden we have these influencers that have millions of Instagram followers and Twitter followers, and I guess even TikTok now. So still trying to figure that one out. But the point being, we can always do more, and we can be more than a basketball team. So now we're into fashion. So we can get into art, we can get into cuisine, we can get into fashion, and still also entertain at a basketball game. So this is the video of where we are now.
The groundswell that turned into a cult following started here. Trust the process. And when the moment arrived, things changed. We changed together.
The love affair is back. It's rekindled. We're actually talking about the Sixers.
Our games became theater. We stood up to historic threats and gained respect. We united. We changed games by refusing to sit on the sidelines. We are brotherly. Togetherness is evident in all that we do. We are brave, unafraid to lead on the front line. We are inventive, bringing an innovative spirit to everything we do. We are authentic, more than true to our roots. We share the rich stories of this city with our fans. We are vibrant, a brand that takes its cue from a diverse city where optimism and creativity thrive. This goes well beyond a sold-out arena, #1 rankings, shiny awards, and transcendent talent. This is about reintroducing a new Philadelphia to the world through a global team and organization. We live for legacy. We're here to shape a new future, create meaningful connections, and ultimately win. What we do next matters. The world will take witness. As we make history again, all it takes is a spark. One jump in the stands leads to a standing ovation, which leads to high fives in the street, which leads to win streaks, which leads to banners, which leads to parades. It takes all of us, all heart, all generations, all worlds. Phila unite. We are the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay, thank you. That's nice. So how do we now go forward? That is the question. We certainly think that our team will keep progressing and hopefully one day win the whole thing. But some things we don't control as well. But what we can control is communication. And we started this mantra a few years back, and it was really about everything that brand stands for. And in our eyes, the brand of the 76ers stands for authenticity, community, our sponsorship partnership. All these things, our season ticket members, our fan base, their love affair with this team, and how could we express that? So I was forced to go onto Twitter, which scared the hell out of me. And I did not want to get fired for something I said on Twitter. And so I actually consulted with Matt, if you remember Matt. And I said, Matt, what can we do here? They're making me go on Twitter. I have to actually be a spokesman for the team, but I don't want to get in trouble. So we came up with a hashtag on brand idea. And it was an idea to share with the fan base and really the business community as well of what we were doing and how we were doing it and who we were doing it with. And that was pretty fun. So in summary, we did the first thing. This is an example of my Twitter account. I seriously don't say anything. It's #OnBrand. That's it. And I may tag some people. And once in a while, when I feel really good about myself and I think I'm funny, I will shoot a #OffBrand. And usually it's a lesson for someone within the organization that there's a hole in the wall or something and no one fixed it or told anybody. And I'll take a picture and I'll tweet it. So sometimes I get in trouble too. So the first thing was, again, we never want to forget our history. And remember, with our history, we get to tell the good stories, not necessarily the bad stories. That's up to us, and that's fun. The next thing was the quality. Never, ever, ever want to slip on quality. Everything we do is about first class. And that is about giving that person that's in the audience or watching us on TV or experience a fan interaction at a community event or an art show, a quality experience and a memory that they'll never forget. And the last part, again, is authenticity. We don't want to shy away from the outside world of what reality is. This is a picture, actually, of a T-shirt I tweeted I thought was pretty awesome. And it was our great rivalry with the Boston Celtics, with Larry Bird and Dr. J kind of getting into it. And I think it's real. And I think that we shouldn't shy away from real. And it is a constant learning curve for all of us. And we're always striving to be better. But this opportunity coming to the gathering is helping us get to that next step. So for that, I appreciate your time and also your expertise, and thank you for having me. Absolutely.
I think there's going to be a couple of mics floating around, so if anyone has a question, put your hand up and we'll get a mic to you. But in the meantime, in the spirit of on brand, you mentioned something earlier that I caught. No one player is bigger than the brand.
Yeah.
And I mean, in today's sports world, the superstars are brands unto themselves.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you do to align?
It's
the
not
brands
easy. For sure, you want to make everyone happy, but you have to think of the big picture. We're in a big ego business, right? And we have to check ourselves as well. So we want to talk about the brand first. And the good news is that everyone is part of it, whether you're a fan or you're a player or someone that works in the front office. Everyone has an opportunity to have an influence.
And how do you leverage? You mentioned a lot of young talent on the team. How do you leverage, the attention, but make sure it's the right kind of attention that you're getting?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, because they have their own brand, so to speak, right? And we just try to communicate. We have relationships with everybody. We try to be very open and honest, and we communicate. We sit down with them. We sit down with their teams and their families and so forth, and find out what's important to them. So we can't hit it out of the park every single time, but we certainly try.
Nice. Some questions out there? Yeah.
From Philly, grew up in this section.
Nice.
Saw Iverson crossover Jordan in person.
You
Sam
got the
Hinkie's,
crossover art reference?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Sam Hinkie's a god and trust the process is a religion. Two questions. Philly has a rich history of ownership, being stakeholders in the community, from Lewis Katz and Ed Snyder basically brought hockey and basketball to Philly. The new ownership group, at least the face of it, in Mr. Harris, isn't a Philly guy. How did you guys kind of reconcile bringing in an ownership group that's external to Philly in a city where
Well, that's my boss, so that's number one. I don't think that's totally fair that he's not a Philly guy. he did go to Penn. He wrestled at Penn.
Yeah.
He, his oldest son goes to Penn. David Blitzer's daughter's going to Penn next year. They're there. They're in Philadelphia. He also contributes to the Police Athletic League, All-Star, After-School All-Stars, a number of programs, millions of dollars in the community directly from Josh Harris and David Blitzer.
Yeah, no,
But yeah, they don't have residents there,
Right.
but they are every one of our games, I assure you. And it's, we're right down the road. We're an hour train ride.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions out there? We have another mic.
How are you?
I grew up as well in Cherry Hill.
Oh,
so I
nice.
was a fan
Yeah.
of Sedale 3, Moses Malone, and that whole squad. And a former sponsor of yours, that Beats by Dre.
Excellent,
My
yeah.
question for you is, incredible presentation, and thank you for that, and your
Thank
journey
you.
is insane. You started off saying those 3 things you focused on to fix. It was
Yeah.
like authenticity, I'm forgetting the other 2 on that slide.
That's
Yes.
it. Hey, very good. Yeah.
You all passed.
Yeah.
It's a great story to reverse engineer. Going the way you went, did you have it that clearly in your head? Did you know it was those 3
You know, when
headlines?
you're
and, like,
a
how did you kind
dormant
of go through
brand,
it?
like we were, it was quite simple. And we didn't want to overcomplicate it. We still don't want to overcomplicate it, even though the world's becoming more and more complex. So, no, it was pretty much on par the whole time. Listen, this was about, first of all, our core fan base and getting season tickets. That was the first realm. The second was fix the brand, or clean it up for that matter, right? The third realm, community. These are all things that tied in. And then can we keep adding things on, alumni relations, and so forth? How could we get back into the business community and stand for something a little bit different? And that's where you saw in the video the innovation idea. So we had this window where we were, yes, we had been around for 60 years, but we were forgotten for a very long time. So we did get a chance to reinvent ourselves and stay a very common, simple course.
Our clock's just about to tick down here, but maybe I'm the only one in the room who doesn't know. What's the significance behind the name? You mentioned it being a little convoluted.
76ers?
Yeah, does everyone know?
So-
Am I the only guy?
You're clearly Canadian. I love Canada, by the way. So 1776 was the birth of our nation. And when was the birth? I'm gonna point it back to you. When was the birth of your nation?
You guys should boo me.
Do you know?
Pardon me?
When was the birth of Canada?
1867.
There we go. So if you had a 67ers hockey team,
Yes, the Ottawa
There you go, there.
67s, there is, yes.
I didn't make the name up.
God,
I love it though.
I'm so sorry.
Well, you know,
What a
it's
terrible
funny.
note to end on.
I will say this, one last point. It's a tricky nickname for sure, but it's also a gift because you can go in so many different directions, right? And so that's where we don't want to mess it up or go back and add a lot of junk to it, but we do want to celebrate all that is good and pure from our country. So that's important.
Yeah.
But on top of that, our starting 5, 3 of our starters are from different countries. And so we celebrate it as all are welcome. We're a global team, we're in a global league, and it's a global time. So for that, we are quite fortunate and excited to see what the future is.
Well, I know you won a bunch of new fans here today, so thanks so much.
Thank you.
That's great.
All right.